On November 10, 2015, Michigan Governor Rick Snyder signed a transportation package of bills dedicating approximately $1.2 billion for road repairs and other transportation matters.
Investments in infrastructure is not just good for agriculture, but it's good for the overall economy. Unfortunately, the last several years, Michigan's transportation budget has stayed relatively stagnant, and that's caused inadequate funding going towards our roads and bridges. I think that's something that citizens of the state often see as they're driving to work or driving in their daily lives, having to dodge potholes or take an alternative route because of a bridge or a road being out of service. You know, for our farmers who rely on that roadway, this can be a costly liability. Poor roads take a heavy toll on equipment and vehicles and can lead to costly repairs. I think when you look at the conditions of our roads and you look at the numbers, it really comes down to funding. And we've seen a shortfall in our transportation budget for quite some time, and legislators have been wrestling with this problem for the past few decades. Having a conversation of trying to find new revenue or existing revenue to dedicate roads is never easy, and I think you've seen that frustration the last few years as legislators try tackling this problem. You know, as an organization, Michigan Farm Bureau has long supported adequate spending for our transportation infrastructure. In fact, one of the first pieces of legislation the organization was successful in achieving was the passage of the first gas tax nearly 100 years ago. I think that priority is just as much relevant now as it was back then. Farmers need an adequate transportation network to deliver their products to and from marketplace, with roughly 90% of all commodities being transported on our roads. The transportation package that passed in November is not just a win for our organization, it's a win for the entire state. I think the governor, as well as the legislators who worked on this issue and stuck with it to come up with a viable solution, should be commended. The package that was passed in early November would bring in roughly $1.2 billion towards our deteriorating roads. Split between $600 million of existing funds and $600 million will be brought in with new revenue. New revenue would come in a mix of both registration and gas tax increase. $200 million would come from an increase in registration of 20% to passenger vehicles and commercial plates. The remaining $400 million would come from an increase in the gas tax. Currently, diesel is set at 15 cents per gallon and gasoline is set at 19 cents per gallon. Under this plan, both will be tied to a single rate of 26.3 cents. Furthermore, the plan would allow for annual adjustment in the fuel tax based on inflation. The plan is consistent with Farm Bureau policy, which has long called for user taxes when new revenue is needed for our roads. Gas tax and registration fees are one of the best mechanisms to accomplish this, for the simple fact that those who use the roads will be paying for the maintenance. I also want to know what's not in this package. There's no changes to the farm, log, or specialty plates, as well as no change to Michigan's per axle weight limits, which were in earlier discussions and would have been detrimental to agriculture. Raising taxes and fees is never an easy conversation. However, I think in this situation, failure to act would only bring more cost to our members down the road. Neglecting maintenance for roads is very similar to maintenance for a car or home. Failure to put adequate investments in early on will only lead to more costly repairs. When you look at our roads, for every dollar that we invest now, we'll save nearly $6 in reconstruction costs later. The package that passed this past November helps put Michigan back on the right track and helps deal with one of our most pressing issues, crumbling infrastructure.